Hello, I'm Linas Sudzius, host of the ICS Law Group radio program. My guest today is Dow Smith, president of Dow Smith Contracting Company, Incorporated. Dow's company assists churches with their building projects and also works with business owners on their build-outs and other construction projects. Dow's agreed to visit with us today to give advice to business owners who are trying to decide whether to rent or to build. Dow, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Linas, for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Dow, let's go ahead and get started. Tell me, what kind of business owners are likely to be thinking about renting a new space or building a building?
Linas, I have found that businesses that are most likely to be renting are those who are just starting, maybe under 5 years old, who are just starting business, or maybe made the strategic decision to continue to rent. I have found those businesses that looking at buying or building, or maybe the business has been around for several years, that being maybe more than 5 years, and they feel more suited to be building owners.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the advantages that might even make those business owners that have been doing it longer than, say, 5 years? What would make them want to continue to rent?
You know, I think there's a lot of reasons to continue to rent. One just simply may be the pocketbook. I have found quite oftentimes it may be, I know for the short term, requires less cash to rent. It frees up some capital where the business owner needs to decide, would I be better use some of my cash maybe to inventory, or can I get a better return on investment in my business versus a return on investment in property? And quite often, I think you can make more money in your business than you can in property.
Well, that's kind of a refreshing attitude from somebody who makes some money from encouraging people to build. I appreciate that perspective. Now, there have to be some advantages to building a building as well. What would those be?
Well, and there are advantages to building a building. I think one is, and let's just assume like most people or like me, that when you do got to build, you are going to have to borrow some money and have a mortgage. But your monthly mortgage payment is going to be more consistent, or you can plan on that for the next 10, 15, or 30 years versus rent. You know that it's going to go up every maybe 3 years. So there is some predictability knowing of what your monthly mortgage expense is going to be 5 to 10 years down the road versus renting. And as well as in being a building owner, there is going to be that return on investment way down the road as your property increases in value, or at least you hope it increases in value.
So I guess it's kind of unfair for me to ask, but most of our listeners, I think, would be interested in this anyway. Which choice is cheaper? You know,
and I believe, and I think that's the answer to that could be subjective, or will for sure be different from person to person. I believe it costs the same. I believe it's going to hit your balance sheet the same, whether if you rent or if you build or own. I think it's going to hit your financial statement about the same. Short term and long term, it's a different answer. So I believe the cost of renting versus the cost of building is really going to be about the same. So I think the bigger question is, what would you rather be? Would you rather be a landlord? Do you want the responsibilities of owning property, or would you rather someone else have that risk?
What I think I hear you saying, Dow, is that owning a building can kind of be like running a second business.
It really can, Linas. Just owning a building does bring on its own set of challenges, liabilities. It's not the easiest. It requires resources. It requires energy, and there's nothing easy today.
Yeah, I hear you. Kind of cutting to how you can help maybe our listeners, is there something a company like yours can do to help control the costs of a business owner that's considering renting a property?
Sure. And if you be a good renter, to be a good tenant, knowing that a landlord, when it comes time to renew your lease, if you've been on time on your monthly payments, if you have been a low-maintenance, fair tenant, renewing that lease, he's going to be much more favorable, and good tenants are hard to come by. So you can save yourself money if you decide to rent. Be a good tenant. Pay your rent on time, and be fair with your landlord.
Is there a role for your company in that? I mean, if I'm considering renting a place, can your company specifically help me to make sure that my costs of rental will be low?
That's a great question, and there might be quite oftentimes when you've been in business and your facility quote needs change, and you may need to do a renovation or change some layout of your floor. And quite oftentimes, just in moving a general renovation or facelift, we can help on that. And we have found sometimes if the business pays for that build-out versus their landlord, they can save some money there.
Gotcha. That sounds great. Well, obviously you're in the business of building buildings as well as doing build-outs. How can your company or a company like yours help someone who wants to build their own commercial place control the costs of doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have found the time where you can save money is during the design phase. And quite often the design starts the moment you decide where you're going to build your building, i.e. your site selection. And so how we can help you get the most bang for your buck in building is if we can help a company, a business owner, or a church assist them in that design on the front end. Where is the best place to put the building on this piece of property? Where's the best place to put phase 1 of this building on this property? And where will phase 2 and phase 3 fit on this property?
I think what's even implied in your answer is that somebody might want to engage you even before they pick out a site.
We have found that, yes, real estate agents we're not, Linas, but we've been around long enough in our 20 years to know if a site is easy to build on or is not easy to build on, and what are the unique challenges as well as opportunities on a site.
Awesome. Thanks, Dow. To kind of sum up some of the things that we've talked about, let me ask this question: what are the characteristics of a business that should probably rent instead of build?
Boy, there could be many possible. One is if a business needs to put their capital or cash into their inventory, or if they can make a better return on investment in their business versus the property that they own. And that could be anything, whether it be retail or warehouse, what have you. It would just depend, look, where would I make more return on my investment, my business or the property?
Great. Well, let me ask the question in reverse then. What are the characteristics of a business or business owner that should probably think about or decide in favor of building rather than renting? They
have a high degree of comfort that they're not going to move, that their location where they're going to be can be there for a long term, and in fact they need strategically to stay at this location for the next 20 to 25 years. They need to it needs to be a good site, a good location, one that will gain value over time, and it would be that type of business.
Great. What other things that we haven't talked about should business owners be thinking about with regard to their commercial space?
Linas, your facility is only a tool for your business. it's a key important tool, whether or your church. But there's so many other factors. Your facility is also going to be your biggest expense of being in business. So quite often in doing it right the first time will save you money in the long term.
I think that's great advice, Dow. Spend a little extra time in working through the decision about whether to rent or build, and also find the right space with the right characteristics, and it'll pay off in the long run. I think that's wonderful advice. If a listener to this broadcast wants more information from you, how can they get in touch with you, Dow?
Linas, I appreciate you asking that. There's a couple of ways. One, you can call me. My office number is 615-355-1386. I invite you to go to my website, dowsmith.com, and on there you can find a link for my email address, which is dow.smith@dowsmith.com.
Awesome. Dow, thank you. I appreciate you being my guest here this afternoon. I'd like to thank you for taking some time out of your day to share your expertise with our listeners. Listeners, if you'd like more information from Dow, feel welcome to give him a call at the number he just mentioned. That's 615-355-1386, or visit his company's website, dowsmith.com, where you can find additional information about how to get in touch with Dow Smith of Dow Smith Contracting Company. Dow, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Linas. Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks, everyone, for listening to our program. Bye-bye.